now known as the Elizabeth Tower, in honour of our Queen's Diamond Jubilee. And to give you an idea of just how big Big Ben is, this vehicle, with all of us in it, weighs just over 9 tons. Big Ben weighs 13.5 tons. He is massive. Now, this clock is also one of the most accurate clocks in the entire world, so if you want to check your watch against it, go for it. I certainly am, so just got a new watch. So yeah, if your watch does not say that it is 4 minutes to 10, I'm afraid to say your watch is in fact wrong, no matter how much you paid for it. I paid 10 quid, I was right. Yeah. This clock is so good that even when, during the Second World War, a bomb landed on the Houses of Parliament, the blast shot up the bell tower, it blew out the clock face crashed to the ground, he still struck the hour from 2 o'clock. That is how good he is. See 4 red telephone boxes on your left-hand side. If you've seen the Harry Potter films, these telephone boxes are where you enter the Ministry of Magic in London. It is the Wizards' Parliament. Underneath this street, this is Whitehall. All you have to do, go into the telephone box, dial the correct number, and you will be apparated to the Ministry of Magic. Dial the wrong number, you'll be apparated back to school. Which I can tell you is more horrifying for the adults. Miniature ceremony. Oh, here they come, just coming into the gatehouses now. There's their commanding officer, making sure everything's alright. Sadly lost his life at the Battle of Trafalgar. In honour of his great deeds, we named the square after his final battle, hence Trafalgar Square. My goodness, if you glance down to the left, you'll catch your first glimpse of Buckingham Palace. Lions. These lions are very, very popular. They're considered to be the most photographed lions in the world, which is interesting because if you know your big cats, you may spot that these guys are actually not accurate. You will never see a real lion sitting like these guys. They were designed by Sir Edwin Landseer, who had never seen a live lion. So he based them on his pussycat and his dog. As a result, they sit how a dog sits, or a lion sits. To be fair, it's quite nice though, because when a lion sits down, they've got a very high arch to their back. These guys are like a dog, and they've got a concave back, which makes them more comfortable to climb on. And nobody will stop you if you want to climb on them. It does make a good photo. Just be careful, because I've seen many people fall over them over the years. That is a memorial in its own right to the Duke of Wellington. And originally actually had a statue of the Duke of Wellington on top of the Wellington Arch, as you would expect. Unfortunately, the Duke of Wellington didn't like it. In fact, he hated it. We discovered he hated it so much after he died, when we found in his will that he'd left money and orders to have the statue torn down and removed from London. We honoured his wishes. You'll no longer see it there, but we have this statue instead, which is Peace in her Quadriga, and it is by Adrian Jones. It depicts the angel of peace descending down into the chariot of war to tame it. It was built to celebrate world peace, which should be in our nation. This is the doorway they will tend to use. It was also out of this doorway that William and Catherine left the Abbey 2 years ago as man and wife, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. It's also the newest part of the Abbey. Above the entrance are 10 little statues. They are of modern martyrs, all from the 20th century, including people like Martin Luther King. Now, just so you're aware, you cannot go into Westminster Abbey today for sightseeing, because it is a Sunday, and Sunday, of course, is a religious day. But if you want to attend the church services, that's totally fine, and that's free, added bonus. The other 6 days of the week, it is open for sightseeing, with various tours, lots of information, and it really is fantastic. There are over 3,000 people buried inside, including 17 of our British monarchs. And there's a lot of debate at the moment about whether or not the Queen will be buried inside Westminster Abbey. Now, technically the answer is no. But if she takes the record and becomes the longest reigning monarch, there is talk that they'll find a space for her, because that's quite impressive. But technically at the moment it is full, so nobody else gets buried there. And they found the remains of Richard III a few months back, and they were wanting to try and inter him there, but again, no room. I'm just taking a moment to enjoy the sun. Yesterday we said the weather today was going to be cloudy and grey. I checked the weather forecast before I came out on this tour. It says sunny all day, 19 degrees. Good call. Tomorrow it will rain, in keeping with the tradition of bank holidays, but today it's going to be lovely. It's often referred to as the worst kept secret in London, basically because I think everyone in London knows exactly what that building is, and now all of you do as well, thanks to the tour guides in London. But in 1994, they built the new MI6 building, and the James Bond Corporation contacted MI6 and they asked if it was okay to use it in the new James Bond films. But MI6 actually said no. They said it would breach national security. But Peter Cook, the Foreign Secretary, he stepped in and said yes. After all that James Bond has done for our country, it is the least that we could do. If you look across the river on the left, you'll see a big green and cream building. That is MI6. Military Intelligence Section 6. That is the Secret Service where James Bond works in London. 007. Do be careful what you say, guys, because we are directly beside MI6. And we've been joking at Duck Tours for about 11 years now that they can hear everything we say. But a few weeks ago, one of our watermen got bored of us joking about this, and he looked up at one of the cameras and he said in a not very loud voice, "Can you guys actually hear anything that we are saying?" And the little camera went, so we actually now know for a fact that yes, they can. It was this camera on the corner here, so do be careful what you say, guys. So we now know that yes, they can hear everything that we say. Duck versus rowing boats. Shall we see who wins? They're looking worried. If you're wondering why we're not using the slipway, it's because if you look, the slipway ends, and it is actually a very low tide at the moment, which means it's safer for us to come in on the beach. Just like they did D-Day. Just drawing it out, allowing your nerves to build up before we prove to you whether or not Cleopatra can actually float. Alrighty, they're moving out the way, guys. Still think we should have rammed them, would have been fun. Oh, a nice little pleasure craft as well, though. Here we go. At the moment, so the current is very mild right now, that's why you will see kayakers and rowers at this time. But to give you a bit of an idea how little Cleopatra does what she does, she is a very special vessel, amphibious vessel. She has 6 wheels underneath her, and that suits us perfectly, driving around the streets, the beaches, the fields, wherever we want. Of course, once we come into the water, the wheels become a little bit defunct. As we start to float, they lift off the riverbed, and they don't really help us anymore. So what we do is turn on the propeller at the back of the vessel. That now gives us our forward momentum. We don't use the steering wheel anymore, it's not very useful. All it does is turn the wheels, and the wheels aren't on the ground. So we instead have a little joystick that is electronically connected to the rudder at the back of the vessel, and that gives us our navigational control. You want to know what we look like? Have a look to your left. There's little Desdemona. Desdemona is the duck that was in the cinemas last Christmas in the film Nativity 2 with David Tennant, if you recognise her. What's very interesting about these vehicles, and what's very useful when the tide is this low, is the entire time we're on the river, the wheels are actually still turning underneath us. That is in case we hit a rock, a sandbar, or with the tide this low, sometimes we touch down on the bottom of the river itself. And it's not a problem, we just then drive over on our wheels, and when we get free water again, we continue down on the propeller and rudder system. But these vehicles, they are pretty old, guys. They're 71. So I do want to reassure you that, of course, we have modified them since the Second World War. If we'd left them as they were for World War II, they actually would not meet health and safety standards of today. A little bit worrying for our soldiers. Things that we've done are very simple. We've added chairs, makes it a bit more comfortable. We've reinforced the hull, added extra flotation. We've popped on a roof, which I think tomorrow we're going to be quite grateful for. The police had run stipulation. The police said that before we got our licence, we actually had to remove the machine gun. I mean, I feel we could have resolved that issue on the beach a lot faster if we still had the machine gun. Just saying. The most obvious difference though is the colour. Please don't think she was this colour at D-Day. This is a very silly colour for a military vehicle. Originally she was kind of grey-green. That meant that she camouflaged with the water. It was us that painted her yellow, just because it's a bit more fun, to be honest. But what we're going to do is head down the river, so have a nice look at the House of Parliament. We're going to do a little U-turn and head back up towards the slipway. The tide is actually still going out at the moment, so we're a little bit faster on the way down, a little bit slower on the way back up. On the way back we will be going against the current, though as I said it shouldn't be too strong because the tide is going to turn. Now I know the water is within reach, but can I suggest that you don't touch the water, as the water is full of sharks and other unpleasant things, just so you're warned. And there she is, the Palace of Westminster, the Houses of Parliament. This is the seat of government in Britain. Rebuilt after the Great Fire here in 1834, built by the architects Pugin and Barry in an English Gothic architectural style, has now become one of the most iconic buildings in the world. There is a colour scheme in this area, the colours in question being red and green. And they're seen in the two bridges, either side, in the restaurants in front of Parliament, and if you go inside Westminster, in the two houses. Now, in the House of Lords, our Lords sit on red seats. Thought you'd seen all the purposes there, I got excited. The Lords sit on red seats, therefore the Lords use the red restaurant, whereas in the House of Commons, our MPs sit on green seats, and the MPs use the green restaurant. It is doubtful that anyone is in the restaurants today, because that means they're doing overtime. If you do see them, if they're in the red, they're a Lord, green, they're an MP. The other thing to be aware of are these yellow buoys coming up on the left. They mark an exclusion zone that exists in front of Parliament, and nobody is allowed in that bit of water. Any vessel that is silly enough to enter that bit of water is considered to be making a waterfront attack on Parliament, and even today they will be very swiftly and severely dealt with. Never go in that bit of water. When the Queen was here for the state opening a few weeks ago, we actually had SWAT teams positioned beside the yellow buoys. They were just adding an extra layer of defence while the Sovereign was inside Parliament. And of course, while the Queen was inside, it was not the Union flag that flew from Parliament. We then raised the Royal Standard in honour of our Queen. Inside this building, you also have 9 bars. Now the bars are interesting because they're not governed by the licensing laws of Great Britain. Which basically means that when Parliament is in session, you are allowed to have an alcoholic drink there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Have you ever wondered about some of the strange decisions our government have made? Just pointing it out. We're going to make our turn, we'll then head back up the river, as I said, probably a little bit slower on the way down. I do want to point out the Coolin Blue boat over on the left though, because that's the Henley, and the Henley's actually the oldest boat operating on the River Thames today. She's over 100 years old. She has now been converted into a pleasure craft, and you can see she does cruises as the oldest boat on the Thames. But you guys have had to listen to me prattle on for quite a while now. I always think it's nice, especially on such a glorious day, if I just shut up for a bit, give you guys a chance to have a chat, get some nice photos, and enjoy the cruise. So I'm going to head off the microphone, and I'll pick up with you when we get back up to Lambeth Bridge. But you can guarantee if I see something interesting, I'll not say quite for long. Speak to you soon. Enjoy. the man on the beach to the right. And very special people, these. They have a special license, and they're known as the mudlarkers. What this man is doing is he's looking for old historic artifacts. We've had a settlement on this river for about 2,000 years, and it's amazing what people have dropped in the river, thrown in the river over the millennia. Now, on a surprisingly regular basis, these items wash up on the beaches of the River Thames. So if you get a license, you can become a mudlarker, and as you see, they've got metal detectors and all sorts of equipment, and they are allowed to look for these artifacts. Now, if they find anything that is of historic significance to London, it belongs to London, and it goes to the London Museum. Now, anything else they find that is not of historic interest, that is theirs, which includes all sorts of jewellery, actually included a bar of gold bullion a number of years ago. That is theirs to keep. Now, there was a man, a mudlarker, that was interviewed a few years ago as he had just had his collection evaluated. He had been mudlarking for 3 years, doing it since he retired, and his collection was evaluated at £75,000. That was just stuff he found on the beaches of the Thames. Now, anyone is allowed to walk along the beaches. It's just only the mudlarkers that can use equipment or go more than 2 inches below the surface of the beach. But yeah, you never know what you'll find. Not always nice, but often historically interesting. This is actually a very low tide today, which is why there's quite a few of them out and about trawling the beaches. Now, they will regularly find things. The most common things are like Roman coins, medieval pottery, Elizabethan pipes, very regular, Tudor buttons, Elizabethan spectacles, all sorts of things wash up on the beaches. I want to point out these 2 boats over the left-hand side as well, grey and orange boats. They are the Fire Flash and the Fire Dart. Now, they're actually the Thames Fire Brigade, and you can see a fireman there on the vehicle. Now, we like the Thames Fire Brigade quite a lot, because as I'm sure you're aware, London has a little bit of a history of burning down. It's done it a lot over the last 2,000 years. Today, if we have a fire anywhere in the vicinity of the river, those guys will deal with it. The way that they're set up, they're able to pump the river directly onto any flames that occur. Very nice setup. The boat on the left, the Fire Dart, she actually featured in the latest James Bond film, Skyfall. There's a scene in the film where they're watching on news reports with MI6 on fire, and you'll see the Fire Dart in the water putting out the flames. So she's a little celebrity now as well. Colourful boat on the left-hand side, she's an old Dutch cargo ship, though she is now retired, and as you can see, she's dry moored on the beach here. They've converted her into a nice little pub, and that pub is called the Thamesis. Now, Thamesis is a brilliant name for a pub on this river, because that is the name that the Romans gave this river when they invaded Britain just under 2,000 years ago. And when they got as far as this river, they thought it was magnificent. They named it the Thamesis, and they set up the ancient settlement of Londinium on the banks of this river. And the river allowed them easy access into the rest of Britain, out downriver towards the rest of the Roman Empire, or Europe as it is today. In many respects, this river, it really is the heart line of London, the great artery of this city. Certainly during the Second World War, this river became really important to us. With major food shortages going on in the country, one of the ways we kept the population of London going was by fishing the River Thames. Jellied eels became a very popular dish at that time, though today you'll find nicer things like salmon in the River Thames. And it's actually a nice indication of how much cleaner the river is today, because salmon will only go in clean water. I was saying it is much cleaner. That's because 200 years ago, this was basically an open sewer. It was pretty nasty. We've put a lot of effort into cleaning up this river. Today is actually the cleanest urban river in the entire world. But please notice the fact that I stress the word urban river, because I still wouldn't drink it, not if you paid me. We did actually have a pod of porpoises on the River Thames a few weeks ago, which was very exciting. Normally we don't want sea life coming up this far up the river, because where we are right now is actually fresh water. It's freshwater river Thames. But if you go a few bridges down to Blackfriars Bridge, that's where it turns into the saltwater Thames estuary. So we allow it's okay for sea life to come up that far. But to be honest, the porpoises, they go way up river. Doesn't seem to do them any harm. That's why when you guys spotted something in the water, I was like, oh my god! Not a porpoise. Now there is actually a big duck on the slipway at the moment, so if we are very lucky, we might get to see Beatrice coming down into the water. It's always quite nice when you see the reverse action, but it just depends how long she takes to prepare to come into the river. But we're going to start aiming towards the beach, and we're going to recreate a little bit from the D-Day landings of the Second World War. So if you imagine that it is not a beautiful sunny day, in fact it's a very cold, wet, rainy, windy, stormy day, we have driven Cleopatra off the British naval ships out in the English Channel, and we're heading towards the Normandy beaches under our own power. We would receive covering fire from the big battleships like HMS Belfast, which you can see down at the Tower of London. They'll be trying to break up the defences, allow our soldiers through. But of course, as we got close to the beach, we would be coming under fire. Oop. This is just the six-wheel drive system going on. That is because the tide is so far out. It allows us greater traction on the shingle beaches, sending power to all six of the wheels. But do remember that originally these vessels did not have a roof. So of course, as we got closer to the Normandy beaches, our soldiers would have been coming under fire. Bullets would literally have been pinging off their helmets as they got closer into the beaches. Oh, here comes Beatrice, guys. So she's coming down on six wheels. You'll notice it, she'll come over onto the beach, and then you'll see the bow in the stern dip as she comes onto the propeller rudder system. She is now afloat. Now when we come into the beach, just so you're warned, there's going to be a little bit of judder. You'll probably hear the engine change pitch, so again please do remain seated. And then we'll go back onto the six-wheel drive, and that will take us up out of the water. Hello Beatrice. Now for us it's a bit of fun. It's quite a unique experience. But of course for our soldiers it was but the beginning of the longest day. Well, they went on to secure the beachheads. They made incursions inland, and it actually marked a major turning point in the Second World War that ultimately led to the victory of the Allies. That was largely thanks to vessels like Cleopatra here, the Ducks. Cleopatra is an original D-Day vessel. She was there 69 years ago, but she's going to show you she's still got it in her. Again, you'll feel the jugger. That's when the wheels touch down, and you'll hear the engine change pitch, and that tells you that we're switching drive systems again. And here we go, guys. We're going in. Switch back to four-wheel drive shortly. And not bad for a 71-year-old, eh? Poor girl. I do have to apologise there. Cleopatra's got a bit excited. She's just having a whiz. Sorry.